this, or will it? If I do that. Okay, well, I can leave it in. That's fine. Okay, I can do that. Yeah. Well, because we try to get the front seat with the bulkhead, so you don't have a seat in front of you. You have more leg room. You don't have as good of a TV screen, but you have a lot more leg room, and on a 15-hour flight, that's more important than a TV screen. Is that where you're at? Yeah. Yeah, that's the front row. You can't always get those seats, but we usually ask. A lot of times we do. You ready? Hello. Thank everybody for coming out tonight. Glad that you're here. If you're watching online, thank you for watching. If you're watching later on online, that's great. Elijah is here also, and he prefers to be behind the camera and not in front of it. So he is going to see Lucky Burger there on the right. So to get to church, you walk past Lucky Burger, go to the shoe department, take a right, and you're at church. So here's what we have with us. So
hold on,
here's
I'm
the
videoing.
entrance to the church.
Here's the entrance
Where you walk in.
to the new church building. It's right outside the mall. Literally, you go through the mall to get to it.
Goes out to the street.
They're right in behind the shoe department.
It's going to give you an idea where the new church is. A really, really nice facility. So after, let me see what's next. Okay, so meanwhile, back home, it was 110 degrees in Garland, and we were about 88 degrees, so it was a lot hotter there. Okay, now we're going to go out the next day. We go to this church out in Takeo province in Samrangyang. Okay, first time I saw this church was this was in 2006. And just stopped and visited it quickly. Came back in 2008, did a big painting project. This was in 2014. The building on the right was built somewhere between 2006 and 8 by Joyce Myers Ministries. There's a lot going on. And off to the far right now, where that kind of green canopy is, a little sunshade, that's where the new water well is. That was one of the big things. This was the old water source. When Elijah and I stayed there, we stayed there for 5 nights and 6 days in 2014, 2016, and the water for our showers came out of that pond. So we would take a shower, and about a half hour later, you're like, oh, man, I feel like I need a shower, and then you're like, wait a minute, I just took one. So anyway, the good news is this is the new water source. We had a big well. We had raised money before we went. They had just got this new well put in. Very expensive well because they had to go 120 meters through rock to get to water, but they found great water. We're going to come back to that. So this is one of their typical bathrooms, a little different than ours. Where that arrow is fresh water. That they have a pump. They hooked a electric pump up to the new well. That is fresh, clean water coming out there. So now they can bathe in clean water because they do the bucket and, pail thing. But this is the room that we stay in. This was our bathroom. It's a Western-style seat, but it doesn't flush. You have to dump water in it and hope what's in there goes away. And on the upper left corner, that's the faucet for our shower, and it had fresh water this time too. So that was the benefit of solving the brown pond water problem, was raising money and drilling a well, and now we have fresh water. So here's Pastor Aloso and I heading out to visit some families from the church. And do we have sound yet? Yep. did. One of the pastors there had his vehicle, and we did travel some in that. I visited this couple several times. They're farmers, really, really nice people. They're church members. We went back again this time. I got a little video. There's no sound on this one anyways, but he's a really fast worker, and he knows how to get it done. So if you can imagine doing that all day long, that's what he does. So I'm not sure what that is. They do have a big field with tomatoes. I knew that. And they have another area with morning glory, which is not a flower like it is for us. It's a leafy thing that they eat. And anyway. What's that? Yeah, I'm sure it's really good. So here we are. They're both, that's how you say hello and goodbye. You put your hands together and bow. Okay, so then we went on to another family. This is Chai's family. They're church members. I want to show you a couple little girls in front, in the purple shirt and the one on her right, our left. 4 years ago, the first time I met them, and here they are. That's 4 years ago, and they were watching us watching the other people make bricks while I photographed them making bricks. Cute little girl. That was 4 years ago. So when we went back, I wanted to get a picture of them together. They're sisters. This is 4 years later. And I had several people had donated clothes here. I had a couple of really nice dresses that were donated. One of them was handmade by Kathy Stanson. It was a top and pants, really, really nice. And I immediately thought of these two girls. So we went back to their house later, and here's the girl in her pretty dress with her new hair bows. Unfortunately, her sister, I didn't know it, seemed pretty normal to me, but she had a major meltdown, and they told us that she had what they refer to as brain problem. She was born with brain problem, and she went in the corner and would not try that's her grandma. She's holding the beautiful outfit that Kathy made, but unfortunately, the girl wouldn't put it on, so I'm sure she did later, but we didn't get a picture of it. How are we doing on sound? Election time to just go down the streets chanting over the loudspeaker. So here we're just traveling through town. We'll speed it up a little bit. You can kind of see the craziness of the traffic. We're going to come into we're going to a church. That's what it is. Oh, we're coming back to the church. So that's back at New Life Church. Here's, probably couldn't get away with that here. Okay, and I have no picture right now. Oh, I have a picture. Thank you. Okay, so a couple of girls that stay at the church, so she's just riding her on her hip while she rides along on the bike. What do we have? Oh, okay, so we're going to visit another church. This is driving into the church.
New building now.
Isaac?
Yeah, that's good. Oh, wow.
Who was that little boy, Isaac Minsker. So 4 years ago, Isaac had taken some of his own money and bought a little toy horse. Remember that? And he wanted, so we were trying to make sure and give it to somebody over there special, and I could get a picture. So this is at that church, but there's 4 years ago, there's the little horse that Isaac had bought with his money. And here's 2 years later, a little boy with his new stuffed animal and toothpaste and toothbrush. And then here he is this year with a couple Hot Wheels cars. So you see him getting bigger. There's several kids over there that I recognize, and every trip they're getting a little bit bigger. We had a little kind of a drizzly, rainy afternoon, so we had brought Frisbees along. This little girl, she picked up real quick. She was really good with the Frisbee and better at catching the vegetable market out on the street. What do we have here? Oh, caption this. I think he's blowing his mind. I'm not sure what he's doing, but this kid is the coolest cat. He's like the Isaac of Cambodia. He's right there. He's smart. He's very articulate. He loves to get around the adults and ask questions. He's really, really cool. He's the the teacher, the school teacher there, that's his oldest son. Okay, what do we have? Okay, so this is places where you drive the road to another church here. This is Pastor Samity's church. We've been there several times. I know some of these people, Bill and Judy, will recognize them for sure. But this is his church. It's growing really fast. They have a bunch of classrooms off to the left and a house back to the left. Those are all classrooms there in the blue building. And then here's his church back there on the right. And then they have a little, like, food preparing area. A lot of people do that. A lot of people have little roadside places where they make food and sell it. And so we're missing what he's saying. But anyway, so we spent some time. This is his daughter and one of her friends. That's their school uniforms for the school that they have there. And here he is with his wife and their son and their daughter, Irene. This is a building this is a fairly typical Cambodian building, but this is on the church property. And an elderly lady stays there to keep an eye on the property. So that's where she lives. Here's the couple of the classrooms real quick inside just to see how they're set up. Plastic chairs and tables, and they're panoramic pictures. They really don't have curved desks. And this is behind the church. 10 youth live in this building. 10 kids that go to school, and then they're part of the worship team at the church. So 10 of them. You can call it a building. It's basically a lean-to with a wall. And so part of the money that we had, we donated to help fix it up, get some more mattresses. They had one mattress for 10 people. How does that work? And so they could maybe make some bunk beds and get some more mattresses and just get a little bit better situation. Here's a couple resident kitty cats and a couple of resident chickens. Cats look healthier than the chickens. And, okay, so this is Pastor Samity's wife. She is frying, was it potatoes, Elijah, or something similar to a potato, but a little bit on the sweet side. So you don't get to hear the sizzling of the fryer, but and then Elijah took his life in his own hands. And no, the food there is fine. You have to be a little bit careful, but we just eat a couple of bites. You don't eat the whole plate, because then if it was bad, you're in trouble. But a couple of bites won't hurt you. And so we were sitting and visiting with them, a couple of the youth from the other church, Pastor Mutt there on the left, Pastor Samity's on the back on the right, Pastor Loso in the green shirt next to him. Here's a typical cow there, very anorexic. And this one's one of the healthier looking cows you'll ever see over there. We were walking back in this path, and we went to visit this family. They had taken in 3 orphan children, and their house is in really bad shape. And they were, Pastor Loso and Pastor Mutt were showing us, they were hoping that we'd be able to help fix their house up. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough money to be able to do that, so maybe another time. But the picture's not real bright, but you can just kind of see that it's in pretty bad shape. Catch water off the back. But they have the 3 kids that they take care of there. So we are leaving and they're saying goodbye. Okay, the Power Kids at the church here were bringing in, had a little program with them. They could earn Cambodian money by bringing in toys for kids, Matchbox cars, hair bows. What were some? I'm missing them. Baby toys, hair bows. Said that. There's something else. Anyway, they bring in stuff to give to the kids, and so we have all the kids at the school there, all lined up, and they're coming up. And the girls first, they got to pick a couple of hair bows, or the boys got to stuffed animals. Got to pick Matchbox cars. The younger kids got stuffed animals, so they're waiting in line. They've got their hair bows. So there's all the kids in line coming up and getting the stuff. And of course, they all say thank you with a little bow. Here then, and then I have, I guess you can't hear it, but they're all saying thank you. All right. And even some of the big kids ended up with hair bows. Let me see. Okay, so what I did for the Power Kids is I brought back I Love Cambodia t-shirts for all the kids in class. They didn't know that was coming. So a couple weeks ago, I gave out their shirts. We had Isaac and Charlie were here the next week because they were on vacation still, and I got Max today. So, and here's bikes. That's how they store bikes over there when they can't fit them all sitting upright. We had bought bikes for a few of the kids, so here's 2 of the girls with their new bikes. And he has a new bike. So now we're back at the church. This is the new well. This is Seven Phillip. He's a very well-known actor over in Cambodia, very popular, very successful. And he and his wife have a foundation that drill water wells all over the country. And so I was able to meet a guy here in the States, Shane, and through him met Seven Phillip, and so that's who we teamed up with to do the water wells. This is the big water well there at the church, and with a bunch of the kids that were there at the time, and I don't... Okay, so this is a video. You won't be able to hear the talking and laughing, but it'll still probably be pretty funny. You may have saw this online. I did send a link to this out in the email, so if you clicked on YouTube, you'll see it. But we'll go ahead and watch it anyways, because I think the sound's still running on there.
We're going to take a shower.
So this was a really big deal for them to get this well, because no one else would even try to do it there. We actually took it again. We knew up front there was a chance that they wouldn't. We knew there was a chance that they wouldn't even get water, and it would have been over $3,000 wasted. But it was worth a try, trying to get good water, and it worked out. They got great water. So. Oh, yeah, it's refreshing. It's not ice cold, but for Cambodia, it's nice, cool, very clean. I didn't drink any just because it was a risk I didn't need to take. I had bottled water, but I'm sure we could drink it and be fine. I'll tell you, it was a lot better to take a shower in than that brown stuff. A lot better, and you weren't itching a half hour later. So it was... So here we are, and we're done. So just a couple still shots. Elijah did a great job. He videotaped this, and he really loves being on the behind the camera. He's getting really good at that. So here we are with Seven Phillip and his wife and his youngest son. He has an older daughter and teenage son. Okay. And, okay, so we're getting ready to leave the next day. Some of the kids there that we know pretty well. We got a group picture before we left. This young girl's name is Srey Saw, and Elijah gave his hat to her. And you can't hear the sound on this, unfortunately, but this is Vicha. We've got to know him really well. He's a great young kid. Really, really good guy, and he really likes Elijah, and he was saying goodbye to us, and we were telling him that he said, we'll see you, but we won't forget you because we'll see you every day on Facebook. And so he's laughing about that because we do see him every day on Facebook.
We find you all over Facebook.
So, really good guy. He was really sad that we were leaving, but he got to come into Phnom Penh and see us a little bit later in the trip. This is Johnny. Anybody remember Johnny? He was here about 6 years ago. This was 2008 when he had just voted. The way they do is when you vote, you dip your finger in the ink, and that way you don't get to vote. It helps eliminate voter fraud, even though their election is so ridiculously rigged. It's kind of, anyway, we won't go there right now. But here's Johnny, 10 years later, having voted in 2018. So I just thought I'd throw that in. Oh, yeah, and if you hit on your Apple Maps, your parked car is 9,067 miles away. Thought that was interesting. So now we're meeting back up with James. This is the container yard. That's his container with 13,000 Bibles in it. Here's Elijah and I loading up our suitcases. Even though there's a cute little kid on a moto as we were driving to the boat. We made 2 trips. I'm going to combine both trips into one, so hopefully it's not too confusing. This is the boat that we take going down the river. You're not going to be able to hear the sound, but we're heading down the river. I'm kind of explaining what we're doing and where we're going. And there's only 2 of us on the boat this trip, which was either really good or really bad. He he's checking our
Checking
visas
our
for Vietnam,
passports.
making sure we're legal
We
beagles.
are the only
And,
two passengers on the boat.
So
Which is either
it
really
was,
good or really bad.
no, we're just leaving
I'm
Phnom
quite sure
Penh on
yet
the
which
boat.
one.
We'll be in Vietnam shortly. Here's our captain cruising down the river. There's Elijah and I, only 2 passengers. This is a video. We're going to stop along the river at the Cambodia border, get off the boat, go to immigrations, get stamped out on our $30 visa wasted. A couple days later, it's gone. We had to buy 3 visas to get in Cambodia. We came in Cambodia 3 times. So each time it was $30 to get back in. And so then here's this pretty cool bridge, the only bridge crossing the river all the way to the border. We'll see the bridge. We'll come over it on the way back on the bus, but kind of a neat bridge. So here we are. That blue dot is us. We're coming down the Mekong River. We're going to come into the border of Vietnam. Here we're getting off. We got off at the Cambodia border. We're at the border. Some of these boats on the river, I have no idea how they float. It does not make sense. They are so old and so rickety looking, and they're just cruising down the river. I have no idea how. So here we're getting back on at the Vietnam border, getting ready to head down the river. It's just a funny-looking boats, pretty colorful, some of them, but they have ferries crossing the river, so you drive your moto up on it, it crosses the river, and you drive your moto back off the ferry. It's kind of neat. So this is a big barge. This is a regular boat. There's a barge coming in right behind it. They're building a bridge over the river there, so they have a big Caterpillar crane on there to go do the work. Big old thing. Okay, so I wish I could show more, but it's all kinds of just crazy stuff on the river. Things like this. That's a boat full of motors, a ferry crossing the river. So we're coming into the dock. Okay, now you won't be able to hear this, but this is our guy that picked us up when we got off the boat. We have my 95-pound suitcase, Elijah's 75-pound suitcase, and both of our 25-pound backpacks. And they throw them up on this guy's bike. Plus, Elijah and I hop in the seat, and he pedals us about a half a mile to the bus station. And first time we were there, he stopped. He wanted us to go to this restaurant to eat. So that's what we're sitting in with all that weight that he's pedaling us around.
All right, so we're back in Chow Dock.
So there's a point here
the
where
same guy is waiting at the
calling
boat
and telling
dock.
us that the bus
Yeah,
is getting ready to leave, and so I'm telling him to go faster. And he's laughing.
Eager to go.
And one of them, he's actually, you can see him, he's puffing away on his cigarette. There we go. I think it's this one. He'll make a real sharp turn, and with all that weight on the bike, I just knew we were going to roll over. So he's telling me the bus is getting ready to leave now. He spoke good English. His name was Duck, D-U-K, or maybe it's Duke. I think I prefer Duke over Duck. So, okay, so here we are, our new best friend in Vietnam, and fortunately he was not a spy. He was a good guy, and here's the bus we hopped on. We're heading to, it's a sleeper bus, so it's 2 layers, and you have to lay back. It's about a 5.5, 6 hour bus ride. We left Chow Dock up at the top corner, Chow Dock. That's the route heading down. And there was a point where I looked out the window, and there's like this metal wall next to us, and I thought, it's like we're sitting on a bridge or something. We weren't moving for like 5 minutes. I'm like, how come we're not moving? And then I pulled out and it hit my GPS and realized we're in the middle of a river. We're on a ferry boat going across the river. That's why the bus wasn't moving, because it was floating. So anyway, we got to Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon, took a cab at 1:30 in the morning to our room. This is our little guest house, our luxurious guest house that we stayed in. And we had to climb up 5 flights of very narrow stairs with our luggage. So it took two of us, Elijah grab an end, I grab an end, and we'd go up and tight turns all the way up. Okay, here's the room with Elijah lounging, all that luxurious space. So then the next day we went to the drop-off place, the underground church, and we're there, and we unload our suitcases and deliver 82 1 3/4 pound Bibles. And then we went with, that's what the Bibles, they're Hmong language Bibles. We went with Pastor Nam, and our contact point there was Tim. So Tim, and they wanted to go to this alligator farm that was nearby. So we're watching these docile alligators. They're just laying around all over the place. And we were walking along, and I didn't realize one had slithered up onto the bank next to us. And you can't hear the sound on this here, but this guy, I don't know what was going on, but he wanted to eat us.
Oh my goodness.
So he came up, and then he just slides back on the water and disappears. And if you hear the sound, it's hilarious, because we're kind of like, what was that?
Nobody would believe
And because you never saw another alligator move the whole time, and all of a sudden one's trying to eat you. So we ended up going to this little restaurant right next on the same property at the alligator farm. And, of course, we ate alligator. Not the one I wanted to eat. I wanted to eat the one that tried to eat us, but they said we couldn't do that. And so there's Elijah and Pastor Nam. He lives there in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City. And Tim and myself. And then we went back. Okay, well, here, this was a market. All along the street here was a market. And the people were told they weren't allowed to have a market there, and they didn't move. So that morning, the government had come in with bulldozers and bulldozed all their market. Everything they had was all destroyed. So you see people sifting through, trying to find, things of value. But the government said, no, you can't be here, and just plowed them all out. Okay, so this is, I think, okay. This is in Chow Dock. I think that one's out of place. All right, I was feeling really good. I turned in $100, and I got 2.2 million dong. And so I was feeling really rich until I had to go give a $500,000 dong to the cab driver, and I kind of put it in perspective. But it's 22,000 dong for $1. So the numbers are really big there. We paid, anyway, it was kind of funny. But we went to this restaurant one night, and I'll show you this meal that we had. That's the kitchen in the front, which is kind of off to the left. And inside to the left is where you park your motorcycle, and on the right is where you eat. So that meal right there was 26,000 dong. It was about $1.20 for our meal that night. It was really good too. It came with an egg roll and tasty. So here we are having our meal. If you look in the reflection, you can see bikes in the background. A couple quick things I thought interesting: Manhattan ribeye steak potato chips, or maybe you'd like Brazil barbecue pork rib flavor, or the traditional nori seaweed. And snob coffee I thought was interesting. At least they're honest about it. And with a $sign. And I was feeling lonely, so Elijah found me feeling homesick. Elijah found me a Home Depot. And Buffalo Wild Wings is B-dubs. So this is the bus that we took back to Phnom Penh. It was about a 7 or 8 hour, very long drive back. It wasn't a sleeper bus. So here we are. We've already crossed the border into Cambodia. You can see we leave from Ho Chi Minh City and heading up to Phnom Penh. Oh, and this is Tim. We were saying goodbye to Tim the one we left. This is the second time we went when we delivered. We're walking down this narrow corridor to get to, we had to go to a different underground church the second time we went, because the first one in the previous 5 days had gotten busted. They came and broke it up, and they were able to get the Bibles and all their materials out in time. So all of that was salvaged, but they couldn't use that home anymore as a church. So we had to go to a different place. Oops. So here we are, second delivery. This time we had 86 Bibles, or 84. So we had a total of 166 in 2 trips. And these are the two young guys there at the church that met us to let us in to drop the Bibles off. And then from there we went up to Siem Reap, and there's Philip Saban. We're at his house, and he took us around to all the water wells. We went to all 10 water wells in one morning. This one, we gave the toys and toothbrushes and toothpaste. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So that's the first well at the house. Okay. Here's the second one. And that water in the background, that pond, that was where they were getting their water from. That brown pond back there before they got fresh water. So you can see the difference of, a $575 donation makes a huge difference in the lives of these people. Some of these wells have up to 15 families getting fresh water from them that previously were getting their water from ditches and rice fields and brown ponds. This is some of that'll look familiar, except it's not 16 inches deep, but that's some of the mud we got to walk through going from one place to another. But narrow pathways. Here's another one of the wells. Another family that was blessed with fresh water. And another well. So this, and right here, previously her water was coming from there. And another place, their water was coming from that ditch. So you can see the difference that it makes. Another well. Hope I'm not going too fast, but another one of my little buddies. Another well. And this one is another one where they had a pump already hooked up to it. Yeah, and these wells were only about a week and a half old. And they had already hooked, like this one, another one, already had the pump hooked up on this one too. You can see the electrical wire going from the right. They're electrical. They don't have any electrical codes. It's amazing that the kids even live, all the live wires around. Anyway, a couple of kids there at that well, they were having a fun time. And this little girl has a giant grasshopper that she's showing us. And they have a little roadside, 7-Eleven, what do you want to call it? That they, so we were getting water from them before we left. So, there's cute kids. And if I had sound here, you would hear her saying bye-bye and then blow a kiss. And this is the last well that we went to. And they actually make rice wine there. And so I was going to show the video on it. But so they're really, really fun people. Then we spent some time, we went to 4 of the temples there in Siem Reap. Just a few pictures. I'm going to go kind of quick. If you ever get a chance to go there, I highly recommend it. It's beautiful. I know Bill and Judy have been there. We went with Bill and Judy, or I went with Bill and Judy. Probably a lot more than that. Probably closer to 1,500, but yes. Definitely worth the visit. Pretty cool. There's 4 different temples that we're at, so this is just a few pictures from each one. And the last one we went to was Angkor Wat, which is by far the most famous one. And got some pretty good pictures there, and then one really cool one at the end here. There we go. So there we are. That was we were leaving Angkor Wat at the end of the day. So the next day we traveled in a post office bus to go back to back to Phnom Penh. They put all the mail and stuff in the very back, and they can put up to 12 people in the van to go back. And you know, this is one of the stuff you see on the streets. You can't get a picture of most of it because it happens so fast, but it's just crazy. All their stuff and people, just ropes it's hanging off the back of the van with just a few ropes holding stuff on, and people sitting on the pile of stuff. Here's another truck with a couple of motorcycles hanging off the back with people actually sitting on the motorcycles. You'd never know what you're going to see. Okay, so then the next day we hopped on a plane and flew back to Seoul, and then it's just remotely interesting. We followed the little green line all the way home. You got to make sure and turn when the line turns. And but one thing I've always found interesting is the route that you take. You actually go over Alaska to get there. So we're going to come up on Anchorage and then Juneau and then come down the Canadian coast, which you wouldn't think you would take that route to get there. But the Earth is round, exactly, so you don't have to go directly across the Pacific, which you might think that you would, but you don't. And there's Dallas. Hopefully it's a soft landing. And boom, we're there. Welcome home. Oh, I forgot here. So anyway, okay, let's open up for questions. Anybody have questions? Elijah, any questions? Carol.
Once they build a water well, is it privately owned, or does the government come in and control it?
It's privately owned. There's a screening process for them to be able to get the well. The village chief has to put their name on a list that they are poor and need a well, and then Save and Philip goes to each one and visits them to make sure they're legitimately poor enough and that they own their land, that the bank does not own the land. They have to own their own land before they'll drill a well for them. So that's the process that they go through to screen them. Yes? Ooh, would somebody Google that real quick? Population of Cambodia, probably, what, I'm going to guess. I'm not even going to guess. How many, 50? 15? Okay, I was going to say 20, so, but half of that 15 lives in Phnom Penh probably.
What was the cost of your water per well?
The smaller wells are $575 for a water well, which is really a modest investment. I mean, no, it could be a lot of money, but for what it does over there, and that includes the well. There's more pictures I could show of them drilling it, putting the foundation in, the concrete, the pump, the sign, everything. And the sign isn't just for the vanity of the donor. It's actually a cultural thing. The Cambodians want to give you something in return whenever you give them something. And by having a sign with your name on it, that's their way of giving you the recognition of giving them the gift. And you notice those signs, they put the alphabet on the bottom of each sign because they found out that some of the people were actually teaching English off from their signs. So by putting the alphabet on there, it helped them to be able to teach English.
Now, these water wells are not connected with the New Life Fellowship.
No.
Who was the group you were working with that was connected to these water wells you were installing?
That's a really good question. The last couple of trips, when it was just Elijah and I, we kind of felt like the church there, New Life Fellowship, is really geared up to take groups of about maybe 8 to 20 people and put them to work. When you show up with 2 people, it's a little harder for them to place you and utilize, your time and your efforts. And so this time I wanted to kind of diversify and I wanted to get at least 2, maybe 3 different people to work with so that it wasn't so difficult for them to keep our schedule filled. And so I worked with AquaShare, which is based out of Mississippi. That's Shane Tingle. And he is the one that has developed the relationship with Save and Philip in Cambodia. And so I was able to just go work directly with Save and Philip over there. But the signs you can see, and if you could hear sound, they're aqua shares who I'm, working in partnership with over there. And then Saving Philip and his wife, they have the Charitable Heart Family Foundation. And that's their foundation that they've probably drilled well over 500 wells over there. And in the past couple of years, Shane's been over there 20 times in the past 3 years going to film. They have the locals drill the well. We don't go over there and actually drill the well. That would be very inefficient, both time and cost. So they have teams, local Cambodians, that go drill the wells, get them all ready, and then they'll come visit them, see the people, shoot a video to help promote. They put them on Facebook, and kind of like I was putting them up. That just helps people become aware of what's going on. They see the value and the benefit, and that the cost is, like I said, it's money. It's not cheap, but for what you can get for $575, that is, many people for years and years to come having fresh water that won't kill them and won't make them sick and won't make their babies die. And, you can't really put a price on that. So, anyway, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it's amazing. Did you by any chance ask Chuck or Jesse if they have any kind of ministry that does that work? Or Chuck's sending out these churches. I'm thinking to myself, wow, what an amazing resource to implement that. I've never heard of anything.
I think they have drilled some along the way, but not consistently and aggressively. They focused on other things, healthcare, education, church planting, things along that line, but I don't think they've really had the time and resources to drill the wells. So the third group that I worked with was James. He has his own ministry there. And the clothes that we brought in that I asked people to bring in the church, that went to James for his children's ministry. New Life Fellowship does not have a children's ministry in Phnom Penh anymore. They are not going to the slums and the dumps anymore, which came as a big surprise. But James is. And as far as I see it, I don't really care what ministry is going. As long as the clothes are getting there, they're spreading the gospel. They've got... they're bringing mosquito netting, mosquito tents, and coloring books that are Christian Bible story coloring books, and they do church services. And so it was really nice to work with James, and he actually goes to New Life Fellowship. He's been going there for about 6 months, but he has his own ministry that him and his wife are running. So maybe eventually they'll team up and possibly work through New Life Fellowship. But between James and going to Vietnam, working with New Life Fellowship, and working to get the water wells drilled, that kept our 2.5 weeks very full. And that was what we wanted. So
those classrooms you showed, a lot of people don't know, those different villages, they need whiteboards, they need chairs, they need tables for the kids. That's what we discovered when we went to the different villages. I mean, because the whiteboards don't last forever. And they use those, and then the chairs are like $3 to $5 a piece. They need tables for the kids to work on. Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing that every village needs. And it's not a lot of money, but it's very helpful to them.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. The whiteboards, a lot of times, their buildings aren't very weather sealed. And so there's a lot of moisture and sometimes direct moisture that gets in, and things just don't last as long. The humidity's really high, and buildings are not sealed there. Lots of water can blow in, bugs come in. It's just to say the buildings are not sealed. But that's out in the country. Once again, if you're in the city and you're staying at the nice hotels, I don't want to discourage anybody from going over there. There's plenty of different ways to have a very fulfilling mission trip and really bless a lot of people over there. Any other questions? Elijah, why don't you come up here? Any questions for myself or for Elijah? He likes to kind of avoid public speaking, so.
Who's your food screener for spicy food? Because I wasn't there.
I usually just ask. When Judy's there, I just see if I wait, and if she's sweating, then I don't eat it. We had a fun experience. The first trip in 2004 in Thailand, we went out to a country church. You remember that? David and Kim were there, and Aaron, and yeah, it was. I mean, we were eating outside, and there were so many flies just all over the table, all over the food, and you're just like, okay, I've got to be polite and eat this. I have to be. It was crazy, and they served something, and Judy took a bite of it, and her smoke started coming out of her ears, and I'm like, I know not to eat that, but we had.
Plate of chicken in Harold's life.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't spicy.
Yeah, it was really spicy. That and the flies. Chicken and flies. That was what was on the menu that day. And watermelon and flies. Yeah, watermelon had a lot more black dots on it than it was supposed to. Any questions for Elijah?
What did you enjoy about it? What was the part you enjoyed?
I think the main thing that I enjoyed was being able to see the faces of everyone when you come there and they see that the well's done or you're handing stuff out and they're just so happy to see you. It's really nice to see that. It's just amazing to see how much the country has changed. It's phenomenal in 4 years of what they've done. In the city. But well, some stuff does. Yeah. Buildings are going up everywhere in the city. The sky rises on every corner now.
Isn't there other countries that are dealing with the same issue of no water? Poor water. Isn't there other countries that are dealing with the same issues of not the proper water?
Yeah, there's a lot of other countries.
I see it on TV and whatever, and I'm going. They know it's going to kill their babies, and yet they're feeding them that dirty water. They have no choice.
I don't know what the actual percentage is, but I would dare to guess that half the people in this world don't have clean, fresh water readily accessible every day. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, we just take it for granted. We can go out, we got a water fountain, we have clean water all over the place, and then we can buy bottled water on top of that if we don't want to take our chance on the city water, but there's a lot of people that don't have good water, and it's amazing. I mean, like I said, I don't know the percentage, but I know it's a lot higher than you would think it would be. Any more questions for Elijah? So anyway, we had some pretty good adventures. I kind of skipped over some of our fun in Vietnam. The first time we went, we were assuming that I wouldn't have a phone. I hit my phone. I could buy a Cambodian SIM card, and my phone, to my surprise, is unlocked. So we put a Cambodian SIM card in, and I had iPhone working the whole time in Cambodia. Well, when we got into Vietnam, a little pop-up came up for $2 a day. I could have internet data in Vietnam, so sure. So I had sent an email to Tim about 7:15 that we were getting on the bus at 8 o'clock. So all the way, I kept them updated with emails all the way into Saigon, got there at 1:30, got to the guest house by 2, free and clear, nobody took our Bibles away. I emailed him, we were there the next morning, and I said, hey, we're here, you want to pick us up about 10 or 10:30? No answer. 10 rolls around, 10:30 rolls around, and no email. We're like, okay, now what? We could go sightseeing, but we have these 2 very heavy suitcases that we can't really leave unattended. And a little bit after 12, we heard from Tim, and he had a good excuse, but we went about 15, 16 hours having no contact and not knowing, all right, what do we do now? And then also when it came time to leave, I had seen a bus schedule, and it said Saigon to Phnom Penh. Okay. So there was a 8:30 bus. We got up that morning. We got to the bus station about 8 o'clock, went up to the counter. I said, I need 2 tickets to Phnom Penh. And they gave me this strange look, and I thought it was because they couldn't understand me. It was because they don't have a bus to Phnom Penh. And I don't know how that happened, but we were at a bus station that did not go to Phnom Penh. And nobody there would tell us where there was a bus station to go to Phnom Penh. They didn't even care that we needed a bus to Phnom Penh. And so I'm getting Google Translate out, trying to talk to them, and we ended up going back to the hotel and starting over, and we found a bus and we made it back to Phnom Penh. But there's interesting adventures. Yes?
I'd like to know, did any of the cable TV over there about Christian channels or anything in Vietnam? Do they have access to any?
You know, I didn't turn a TV on the whole trip. I don't know. I don't know. Vietnam probably would not have a Christian channel. They do have Christian churches in Vietnam, but they're registered through the government, and the Bibles are printed by the government so that it can say what they want it to say. And so you can get Bibles there, and you can go to church, but the underground church is for the people that want a Bible that hasn't been reprinted by the government, and they do not want people to worship in their own free manner. And that's why the underground church has to be sneaky. Otherwise, they're not able to worship the way that they feel they would like to. But as far as the TV channels, I don't know. I would guess Cambodia has something, but they're still 95% Buddhist. So if you were getting a Christian station, you're probably catching a satellite signal from somewhere else, or a sling box or something going on. I doubt that it's not going to be a Cambodian originated broadcast, most likely. That would be my guess. Other questions? Yes?
Don't you think that it's just going to grow and grow and have more access to those countries to a cable Christian channel?
Okay, could you repeat that? That's okay. There was a little
I
extra.
was just saying, no, it was my question. Don't you think that as we grow and grow and have cable and stuff like that, these other countries will get access?
Yes. I'll tell you what. Time frame, 2004 when we went there, some people had email. 2006 when we went back, most people had email. We were cautioned not to give our email addresses out because they didn't want people contacting us, can you help me get to the United States, or I need $500, can you send it to whatever. 2008 we went back and everybody had a cell phone. Most people had cell phones. Some of them had Facebook, not many, but some in 2008. 2011, everybody has a cell phone. Everybody's on Facebook. And since then, used to be when we would leave, you were gone. You didn't hear about anything. You didn't know about anything. You didn't communicate with anybody. You didn't know anything going on with the church, what was growing, what was happening, until you landed back there the next time. Now when we leave, we're never gone. Every day we see what's going on Facebook. And what that did is that opened up, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but they used to have a very narrow world that they lived in, especially out in the country, that this is where I grew up, this is it, this is what I know, and unless I get an education, I'll probably never know anything else, which is probably going to be poverty. But now with this opening up with the internet and with Facebook, they know everything going on in the whole world. There's a lot of real heavy Western influences, very much. Even out in the country, you see the dress changing. You see the way the girls are dressed changing. They know pop culture. They know music. They know all of the American movies, even out in the country. In the city, like Elijah was saying, there's high-rises popping up left and right, but huge malls. I know malls they probably hit their peak here in the States just because of online commerce, but over there, malls are still the newest, greatest thing. In 2014, they had just opened the brand new Aeon Mall, this huge mall. We just went for the first time this trip. But now that's the little mall. They opened a huge mall on the other side of town, ice skating rinks and everything in them. It's just, so there's a middle class that wasn't there 14 years ago. You were either very poor or you were the elite super rich. Now there's a middle class that's there that wasn't. And so there's coffee shops, I call Starbucks wannabes, popping up all over the place. Starbucks popping up all over the place too. But these coffee shop, these little boutique restaurants, there's a lot more expensive places to eat. If you want to, you can spend more eating there than you can here. If you want to go to those places. I mean, there's some pricey places now. But you can also go get your whole meal for $2 at, one of the traditional places if you dare. So
the phones aren't the pricey phones that we have here. Most of them are just simple little phones.
Yeah.
That's their communication. And the malls, when we were there last time or time before, the malls are built by companies from Singapore and stuff like that. The Cambodian people don't have that kind of money. But the Singapore people are really rich, and they come over and build malls and things. That's what we were told before.
exactly. More and more of the Cambodian people can go to the malls and spend their money, especially the youth. They love to do that. Cambodia has opened up. There's a lot of Chinese and South Korean investment, which is good in most ways, but there's a lot of influences that are come in there that aren't necessarily that good. The Chinese have bought up most of the nice resort towns along the coast, and they brought in casinos, and along with that has come gangs and crime, and they're not nearly as safe and quiet as they used to be. So, progress has its two-edged sword. The city is becoming quite modernized, although it's still chaotic and crazy on the roads. It's not as bad as it used to be. It's bad, but definitely getting better. I've seen a lot of progress, and I know, Pastor Ray, you were just over there last summer, right? Yeah, yeah, and and he's been going there since sometime in the 90s, and you can just see almost every road in the city is paved now. And 14 years ago, you got off the main road, and it was a dirt road with mud puddles and everything, and all the alleys. We would call an alley. For them, it's still a street, but everything's paved, and the high rises and the fancy buildings and the expensive hotels are all popping up all over the place. Any other questions? All right.
Thank you so much.
Carol, is that a question?
You can be a missionary because you are flexible. You just don't let things bother you when there's a change, and you don't worry. I think that is so much to be admired in both of you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Elijah's pretty adventurous. One great thing about Elijah, he is not a complainer. He will go along, and he may not always be enjoying every moment, but he'll make the best of it. And most time, I think he was enjoying it. But it really was pretty adventurous. There was one point when we got to the border, or to the port at Chao Doc in Vietnam. And we don't know. I don't have money. I've never been here. There's nobody meeting us. What do we do? And the guy from the boat said, "Here, come with me. Take this." He points to the guy with the bicycle. "Here, he'll take you." And I'm looking at the bike and going, "Are you serious? We got to put our suitcases on this thing and us, and he's going to pedal us into town?" And so we're on this thing pedaling. I leaned over to Elijah and said, "He's either taking us to the bus station or the police station, and we have no idea which one." So we're just like, you really have to put your life in God's hands and Duke's hands, and or his feet, his legs. And so you do have to kind of go, "Okay, Lord, this is, how about if we go to the bus station?" That would be a great idea. And then he stops, says, no, you guys need to eat. He stops at a restaurant, a little roadside restaurant where we saw the picture where we're still sitting in the bike. And we're like, no, I really want to just go to the bus station. We hadn't eaten, so we were hungry, but we didn't know what restaurant, what's going to be on the menu, and we just don't want to miss the next bus. We want to keep moving. And so we stopped at the restaurant, and he helped us get money, changed over, and, so he was really turned out to be a great guy. He was very helpful, good English, just watched out for us the whole way. Really, he was like a little angel there, because we were told that there were spies, and while we were out at Samrung Young, that Sunday, a pastor from Phnom Penh came out to visit, and he said he has 50 underground church. Was it 50 or 25? 50 underground churches in Vietnam that he watches over. And he's made many trips into Vietnam, and he asked us how we were going, and he looked at us like we were crazy. He's like, why? You can't do that. He didn't think we were going to make it, that we were going to be successful, which we don't know what we're doing, so that was a little shot in the confidence there. We were kind of took a hit on that. It was kind of like, what does this guy know that we don't know yet? And anyway, so the whole thing was definitely adventurous. So, but you just pray and you go and let God lead the way. And another thing is it really that risky? There's only one way to find out. Get caught. Exactly. I mean, there's no other way to know is to get caught. I mean, we don't know if we walked right by somebody that worked for the government or the guy that picked up help us with because we tried to always be there to help with our luggage. If we were traveling with normal weight luggage, I don't think it would have been a problem. But we had, 95 and 75 pound suitcases. That's not normal. And everybody else was they were Europeans carrying backpacks. When we went the second time, there was like 10 people on the boat, and we were the only one with suitcases. Everyone else had backpacks. And so anyway, if we had just normal weight backpacks, it wouldn't be an issue at all, I don't think. But since they were so heavy, we had to try to make sure and not let anybody handle our suitcase all by themselves. We didn't want them to feel the full amount of the weight, because that would be a real red flag. One guy asked us at one point if I was carrying travel brochures, and I said yes. Our friend in Ho Chi Minh City has a travel business, which isn't really true, but we were staying above a travel business, and our guest house was on the 5th floor above a travel business and a little travel site in Ho Chi Minh City. But anyway, it just pray and go. Yes. I'll leave tomorrow. Yeah, I would love to. I mean, I'm ready to go back. Each time I go there, when I come back, it's been so much work, so much effort, the fundraising, the planning, just having the schedule, having it all happen, coming home, you're exhausted. It's a 12-hour time change. And everything, it takes a lot out of you. And when you leave, the hardest thing you can imagine is going through all that and going back. But the reality is you can't imagine not going back. That's a much bigger thing to imagine, is not going back. And, it's in God's hands, but I absolutely would look forward to going back. And with the situation with the water wells, I already have 4 or 5 people interested in donating water wells, and hopefully that goes up. So, based on that, the next trip may be sooner than the normal schedule is. So we'll just see what God plans. But yeah, Bill and Judy know the feeling. Once you go, on the way out, you're like, you can't imagine not going back. And as much work as it is, and as much as it takes out of you, your time, your money, your energy, your effort, your family, it takes all that time that you're not spending with family. So to go every year would be very difficult, because, I wouldn't be able to visit my family in Michigan and stuff like that. So anyway.
All that seed you sowed into those kids for eternity. Oh, we can't even imagine. That's to me. We ought to consider literally taking groups over there. I'm gonna call that guy with the water well. I think Chuck ought to connect with that, because I know they're more or less in starting churches and building churches and all that, but meeting the physical needs of those people. I've never once heard in the 30 years I've been going to Asia, I've never heard of that kind of ministry doing that yet. And he's right. By the way, I'll tell you one of my biggest challenges is when I went over there, no toilet paper. And I will never forget. I know I'm not trying to be.
You always take in your backpack.
Well, I didn't think of that, and I'm going over there, and you go over there, and you got this big, huge basin of water, and I'm thinking, what's that all about? Never thought of it.
I won't go any further.
Yeah,
But I'm just telling you, the things you don't think about that, you know, it's amazing, but you know, we are so westernized where they went. I mean, I'm sure they adjusted to things. Of course, you guys are veteran missionaries now, but you just adjust to those things. And it's phenomenal. As well as the humidity, and nothing to say about the humidity and all the stuff that you're dealing with, but that's...
It was very humid.
Well, see, when we were there last time and we were out at one of the schools and we had time to sit and talk to the people, and I said, what's that growing over there? And that's when they told us it's morning glory. She brought some of it, and she said they eat this. In fact, they do it in powdered form, and they have people from the United States that go over and buy the bottles in powdered form and bring it back, because that's why there's hardly any cancer in the people in Cambodia.
Yeah.
And there's other plants. That's why you hardly see anyone in Cambodia wear glasses, because they're a poor country, but what they eat, what God has given them to eat, protects their bodies, like what we don't have over here.
Your blessing.
Yeah.
I agree.
Great joy. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. Thank you. I would, maybe there's a Christian ministry drilling water wells. That would be a great thing if New Life Fellowship isn't already doing that. I will say, when I'm working with Savin Philip, that's my contact I have right now, and he's a great guy, but he is Buddhist. It's not his ministry is not Christian. Shane Tingle is a Christian, but he's running his AquaShare as just a nonprofit. He's not a Christian nonprofit. He's a drilling water wells in Cambodia nonprofit, but he is a Christian. But to me, I don't. There's a point where the fresh water is very important, and so I did want to say that you know that.
But the thing is, even though he's a Buddhist, you still touched and influenced his life.
That's right.
And you know what? We put some of our people, some of our donors, have Christian scripture on their signs. They're fine with that. You can they don't have anything against Christian. Matter of fact, it's great for them because Christians are very generous and helpful and like to spread the gospel through many avenues, many ways. And if giving fresh water is a way that you can spread the gospel. So, anyway. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody coming. Anybody that's listening online, thank you. And appreciate you coming.